Don't know why it's not keeping focus. So you got to have a close up. Now it's going to keep focus. I got inspired by your X60 video and will give a try minimizing my resources usage. Okay, good to see that. Well, as you can see from the title of the live stream, unironically, I am running a ThinkPad X60 32-bit with Hyperbola Linux. So hopefully I can give you some little extra pointers if you really want to minimize usage, whatever you're running really. So there are a few things I will cover that I have had to change now that I'm running my X60 on Hyperbola that I can't do on traditional Arch. And these packages should be available in Arch. So I will have a look. Let's have a look. While a few more people come in. What is the time? Okay. While a few more people come in, I'm just going to have a little look. So Gurjan, what are you running? What's your, say, computer, desktop, laptop, and operating system, out of curiosity? Right. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you're not going to be short of resources anyway, but with all of these things, I think it's good practice to understand your system. By understanding your system, you also understand literally what you need. It's always interesting because you hear this thing. I always hear it from, or used to hear it from, the tech channel Learn Linux TV. Great channel if you want to learn Linux. But I always found this amusing. So what he would say, is it Jay Lacroix? He would say something like, well, you don't need to worry about resources because you've got all those gigabytes of RAM, hard drive. They're there to be used. Okay. There's a slight irony to this, of course, is they're there to be used until they're not, meaning that, yes, right now you're maxing out your CPU and your RAM. What does it matter? However, if you're running a desktop, you don't know what situation you're in. You and I and everybody knows that if you're running a web browser, you hit, 20 tabs and you're using gigabytes, absolutely gigabytes of RAM, right? So you're already in a position where you're hemorrhaging RAM. Then you might want to do, say what I'm doing, a live stream. Then you might want to bring up a video for reference or whatever work. Then you might have a Teams. You see what I mean? It's always ironic that people say, don't worry about, let's say, optimization. Don't worry about resources. Just use it all. The foolishness of that is, of course, you can use it all until you can't use any more and you need more. So this just always work to the principle of, what do I actually need? Almost like, think of, what do I need as a standby system? And that's why obviously I run a tiling window manager, because, or the TCY, because I know that everything else is usually superfluous. I can script things or program things. I can run a system that actually works better than these bloated systems. And that's not just to show off, because this is how I actually use these computers. And I've covered this in videos before, that this is good practice. Using a Unix system is light, minimal, extensible, gives you the means to create the system that you want. And usually it means you don't need to use superfluous software. And yes, the resources thing might be true. You might be a person who runs an incredibly powerful machine. Just always remember, it's incredibly powerful until it's not, meaning that if you're running Windows 8 and you're already wasting 8 gigs on a standby, on idle, those 8 gigs might be critical if you are multitasking like mad. It's just an unfortunate thing, but it might be necessary. I think it's just, again, good practice. Know how to use your system, know how to configure it, know what you want. Now, your system might need, say, something like KDE that uses, you know, an incredible amount of system resources, because that's what you need. But I would never assume that people don't need resources, even if they have a lot of it. Because I think like anything in life, you don't necessarily know the future. So, wanted to move to Debian, but the muscles memory didn't allow me to move. Okay. Well, I mean, I know it's a cliche, but I mean, I guess if you install Debian with GNOME, although, oh no, Ubuntu's desktop environment is custom, isn't it? It's a custom GNOME environment. So, of course, it depends what Ubuntu you're running, right? Okay, there's 4 people in here. It was funny, I streamed yesterday as a sort of just testing stream. I had like loads of people in. Must have been because it was a Sunday. Even though I had it on mute, I wasn't doing anything. I was just testing out the streaming equipment, but anyway. Just say as well about, and I know I've covered these kind of things before, about using what's it called? What am I trying to say? I can't even think what I'm trying to say now. I can't even think. Really just covering the kind of stuff that I've already been covering. Wow, down to 1 person. I had a brain block and now everybody's left. How funny. Three people. It's right here. Yeah, hopefully I'm going to cover my setup in a few moments and just give enough of a summary and examples of, well, summarize what I'm using hardware-wise, software-wise, and also some of the issues I've found, so to speak. When I say issues, some of the modifications or compromises I've had to make. Right, back in a second. I'm just going to get something. Hey, David Collins Qubit, what do you think of FreeBSD? Well, I haven't technically used FreeBSD. I know it seems to be the BSD of choice for the desktop. And interestingly, do you remember when I was regularly uploading? I feel kind of bad, really. I should regularly upload, but it's just life. But if you remember, when I was regularly uploading a few months ago, I can't remember his name. I think he was Eastern European, who would comment on every video, and he had been a long time FreeBSD user, and he had migrated to Arch Linux, and he was trying to do, I think, something similar to me. I remember how much he had enthused about FreeBSD. I know it's the BSD desktop of choice, really, isn't it? Or desktop operating system of choice, or BSD flavor of choice. So basically, the short answer is I haven't used it. I'm only gleaming from secondhand knowledge. It seems really good. Now, if you ask me about OpenBSD, which I have used a little bit, if you've seen my streams configuring it, I quite like that. I like OpenBSD. It seems to be a good system. And of course, this ties into what I'm using now with Hyperbola Linux, which you never hear anybody talk about, or who really talks about Libre operating systems anymore, rightly or wrongly. But the idea is that Hyperbola, and we'll sort of cover this, is going to end up as an open BSD Libre distribution in the long-term future. But it's still Linux at the moment. Yeah, I know a few IT guys who have moved over to it. I'm unsure, not have enough experience in it. Yeah, to be honest, I can't really offer any advice. Like most things, just try it out on a virtual machine. That would be my advice. See what you think of it. I'm sure it's not too difficult to set up. Like the whole OpenBSD thing. Sure, it's, does things differently if you remember my streams, but I mean, using a Linux or a BSD desktop I don't think it's that difficult. If necessary, I'm not saying my tutorials are the greatest, but just get yourself a basic setup of FreeBSD, and I'm sure the documentation is good. Or just look at my FreeBSD install, because I presume they use Zenakara and all this kind of thing. Yeah. Anglo says, I tried it in VM's easy to install. I've just seen Omarchy, but looks like a theming engine for Arch Linux Hyperland. I've got a feeling I've heard about that, but I don't know what that is. Omarchy. All right, how are we doing on time? Okay, I think it's basically time. It's time to talk about what I'm using. So what I will say to begin with is this is kind of unique. You probably won't hear people running in 2025 as their desktop 32-bit. I know there's going to be exceptions to the rule. Hyperbola, Librebooted ThinkPad X60. It just doesn't seem a 2025 thing. It seems like the cutoff point is probably the X220 these days. For Librebooted ThinkPads, Arch Linux or Artix Linux, you know. So here's the thing. The irony is that most Linux YouTubers, and obviously I've only got 5 subscribers, so I can't really call myself a proper Arch Linux YouTuber, but they do the thing which is they do the minimalism, they do the tutorial minimalism, and they end up running something like KDE or some bloated setup on some, you know, desktop computer. You know the kind of people. I'm not ragging on them. I understand why they do it, but usually theirs is an ascending level of computing, right? Or a gets more and more contemporary. They start low, small. They see it. I'm not saying they literally see it as a fad at the time, but it's like their fad. We all know the people, and then boom, you know, they're on their 100K subs or whatever, and they're running, you know, some setup that is like every other, you know, desktop Linux consumer. So I've done the opposite. Okay, I started low, and now I'm literally underneath. I'm literally subterranean. That's how low I've gone. Okay, and I'm not going back up. And I'll tell you why. So let's start. How should I best start this? Well, I think first of all, let's premise this of, and I know I've covered this slightly before. Why have I gone to this like lower level, right? Yeah, C64. So the reason I've gone, let's start with the premise. The reason I've gone to this lower level, so to speak, share the screen, is because of this, okay? So this is the, look it up, this is the Horizon IT scandal or the post office scandal. So I'll put the link in the description, but look it up. I'm not going to dwell on that because that is horribly. And again, I'm just going to cover this briefly this time. This was a scandal where people who run a post office, which in the UK is like the postal system, and they run it as a franchise, effectively had to run proprietary systems that not only stole money from them, had backdoors in, then because of their agreement, because of their agreement with the post office, they had to pay this money that was stolen from them effectively through bad software and software that could be backdoored. And they were even sent to prison. Some people killed themselves, committed suicide. And yes, it's not it's not an exaggeration to say that proprietary software killed them. Okay. Now, there's more to it than that, literally more to it. Really, the biggest issue is actually the courts, but basically they had no fail-safe. And this is the world or possible world of proprietary software Think of all the big tech companies. Think of all the things they're doing. Look at Meta alone. Look at Facebook. Look at the backdooring they're doing. Look at the sandbox avoidance they're doing. Look at basically the criminality of these. And I know it's almost like a free software foundation cliche, but this is the thing. This is not actually a joke. These shouldn't be jokes leveled at the FSF that are not relevant. This is getting worse than it's probably ever got. So that's actually why I'm taking a step lower. And it's probably going to get worse with AI. Another thing I'll just briefly say, I'll probably do a video on this, but everybody knows that, including even Linux, including any software, we all know, and they're not, this is not irony, this isn't satire. Huge tech companies are laying people off and effectively replacing them with large language models under the guise to augment existing developers. But really all it is just basically closing your eyes at the steering wheel and hoping there's not a collision. The software security seems to be, it's on a downward slope, downward trajectory. Now, of course, this could all be reversed, but it seems to me that that is the case. So I'll probably do a video on this. So there's just a myriad of reasons to actually use free software, completely free software, unironically. Now, I've done a video on this before and I sort of said, well, I can't do that. So there is a caveat to this. My main machine is completely free software and it is a compromise. However, yes, I do still use proprietary software for work in my life, but I've basically sandboxed my personal use and my work life unironically. Okay, I have to keep saying this because usually people don't really believe you, or you don't believe it yourself, because usually there's a fusion between the two and you're having to make compromises for proprietary software, even if you're using a Linux distribution that's largely free software. So I've basically created a fail-safe, if you like, that I cannot by definition use proprietary software on my main machine. Okay, so I hope that explains it in a simple enough way. But well, let's actually show you. So I kind of did this before, but not very well. So I'm going to try and do a better job at this time. So this is the X60 ThinkPad. Now, I think it's got a 4-cell battery. This came shipped with Windows XP back in the day. Okay. Now the interesting thing with this has a WWAN, a wireless WAN antenna. So this actually has an antenna for connecting to 3G. So I'm going to show you the outside, obviously, for now. Still got the old IBM logo. And this is because when IBM sold the ThinkPad range to Lenovo, the last model in production under IBM was the X60, I think. So it was technically released under Lenovo, but all the design was IBM. I think that's right. Okay, so where to go? So I'm just trying to cover all this properly. Not the best video. It's funny when I do a live stream now, I just kind of wing it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is what it is. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, this is a 32-bit machine. I'll go into the technical specs. Oh yes, now this is 4x3. Okay, so these are some of the last 4x3 ThinkPads. And what's interesting, this is actually kind of smaller than even like the X201 or the X200, which are 16x10, which is really my limit for display resolution. 16x9 is garbage. Sorry, I'm not going to compromise or stoop to that level. 4x3 is how I want it to be. So I will open it up in a second. I'll give you some technical specs. Let's give you some technical specs, and I'm going to show you some of the things I've done to it. Okay, so let's share screen. So if you're wondering how old that laptop is, that's 2006. Okay, it's nearly 20 years old. So here's a little Wikipedia thing on the X60. Now I think I'm running a Core 2 Duo T5500, T5500, I think. Or am I running this? I can't remember. Maybe I should check. But I think I'm running one of these. It's a Duo. Actually, I think it might be this one or this one. It doesn't really matter. These are old CPUs, but it's fine. Obviously, it's got like an built-in graphics thing, whatever that is, 950. Now I only have 2 gigabytes of DDR2. I know, crazy, right? It can be upgraded to 3.2 with a 4 gigabyte, but it doesn't utilize 4 gigabyte. And this is because it's an old 32-bit system. You could never upgrade it more than 3 gigabytes, I think. Now, I'm not running a spinning disk drive. It is actually an SSD, so it's relatively fast. And the display is the display. Whatever. Obviously, I'm not running XP Professional, if that's not obvious. So let's leave that there. Right, so let's open this thing up. Now, what I will say is, there's this little clasp here, which is nice, but I don't use obviously the WWAN antenna, or I don't use WWAN because this is 3G. 3G network doesn't exist anymore, and I'm not going to use 3G. Okay. Oh yeah, let's show you the ports, because what's the point of opening it up if I haven't showed you the ports yet? So there you go, USB 2.0. That's as good as it gets. Microphone and headphones. You've got 2 USB ports. Look at this. You've even got, I think that's a FireWire port. That's how old it is. I've got a modem port there, I guess. I think that's the old phone style one. Remember, this is 2006. Yeah, FireWire. Remember FireWire? Was that Apple garbage? Anyway, there's your 20-volt AC, whatever, power thing. Like I said, that's a 4-cell battery, nothing exciting there. Interesting, they got the lock up here rather than down here. Like the later ThinkPads had like the lock and whatever. I don't know if I was that bad, but I don't know. You know, it's a cliche. I'll cover the fan in a second to show you. This is like an expansion port, I think. There's your like SSD, not SSD, your yeah, your, what is it, your little, I can't even remember technology, your little card that SSD is still an SSD, a flash card, sorry, flash card. There's like your Ethernet. Okay, there's your old style, what do you call it, monitor, I can't remember. Then there's another USB. Now, interesting, this has got a bit of damage on it. I got this obviously used. There's a bit of damage there on the VGA. That's it. Thank you very much. I've got a bit of damage on this. Obviously, some scuff marks and whatever on the case, which is perfect, because that's what a ThinkPad it is. It's there to be used and abused, really, and it still works. You know, this is 19 years old. It is pretty much great. Okay, there's a few bits of damage here. It didn't do any significant, so yeah, a bit of plastic on the fan covering, whatever. Oh yeah, I've got a dock with this now. Are you really interested in the dock? I'll show the dock. I got the dock with this. Let's get the dock. First of all, though, I will show you some of the things I took out. So so it's been thermal pasted. Okay, So I've rethermal pasted the heatsink and the heatsink. And I had this, what is this? This is, I can't remember what this is. I think this is for the antenna. Anyway, this is gone. I've taken this out. I think that was for the antenna. And oh yeah, here's the old wireless card, the Sierra Wireless, right? So now I've got yeah, that's for the modem, sorry. Thank you. That's been taken out because I'm not going to be using that, obviously. And this is the old Wi-Fi chip, the whatever Sierra, I don't know. So I've replaced it with an Apharos or something, you know, the basically the completely free software one. I am going to find the model, okay, because if I'm going to do this properly, you need to know the model, okay. So yeah, it's like completely free software Apharos Wi-Fi chip. The reason I've done that, I don't actually use LAN because I am sort of moving about here and there. The reason I've done that is because if you Libreboot, which I'll follow up in a moment, your ThinkPad, you have to use a completely free software Wi-Fi card, and I think they embed the software on the Wi-Fi card. I'm not sure. Yeah, so Lenovo have a whitelist where only certain authorized Wi-Fi cards will work. And the irony is, if you're using a free software distribution like Hyperbola, you can only use free software Wi-Fi chips, okay? So to do that, you need to Libreboot your ThinkPad so you can take off the Lenovo whitelist or blacklist or whatever, and so you can replace it with the Wi-Fi card. Now, interesting with the Wi-Fi card, it doesn't have Bluetooth on it, and I think on those they have like an extension so it can plug in. Well, it's got nothing on the chip. It's got the Wi-Fi card halfway up the chip, and then the other half is just blank because it's got to actually fix down. Whereas the old Sierra or whatever has the Bluetooth built in on the chip as well, I think. Hope that makes sense. So let's see if I can find the purchases. Here we go. Yeah, so here we go. This is it. This is a ZeroWave AR5B95 Wi-Fi thing. Okay, so that's what is in the computer. And it's running great. It does the job. Okay, so that's the kind of modifications. I'll get the docking station. Just bear with me. I can't believe I forgot it. It's not that exciting. There you go. So there you go. A docking station. How exciting. It's really just like any other docking station, except it fits your X60 disk drive, some lock, USB 2 ports, of course, a button to test if it's safe to unlock, and then like that's the release catch, some vents and whatever, some big thing, VGA something, or I don't know, whatever, SRT, I don't know, more ports, power, audio, modem, Ethernet. So there we go. That's pretty much it for that. So if I open up the X60, this is 4x3, okay, which I'm a fan of now. Well, it's not that I wasn't a fan of it. I kind of did think 16x10 was kind of optimum. It wasn't too widescreen. It had like good vertical, but really, I'll be honest, I think 4x3, unironically, I have to say unironically a lot today, is good. It's nice. There's something nice about it, and you can't really get this anymore. The reason that I don't really watch films or anything, I don't need cinematic. I know I like my cinema, but I don't need it on here. I hope that makes sense. Maybe that's a stretch, but 4x3 seems to be running great. You got your numpad or numpad. What is it? You've got your pointer stick. Now I like the keys on this. These keys, I will say, I like the X201 keys. They're kind of spongier, but I still like them, and they feel really good quality. However, the old X60 is very much like the track point. That's it. These are very much like an old Latitude I had, Dell Latitude, which is, you know, like the Dell's equivalent to the ThinkPad. They never really quite were as good, but I had it, and these keys were a bit clickier. Nice travel, bit clickier, bit sort of shorter profile. I really like them. Okay, so this is similar to my old Dell Latitude. Of course, no trackpad that I'm not going to waste my time on turning off. A fingerprint reader. I don't really want a fingerprint reader, but it's there. Your usual buttons. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. Just to prove to you I'm running Hyperbola. So there you go, it's Libreboot. You see that Hyperbola's on there? Don't know. Anyway, it's loading Hyperbola. So let's log in. Yeah, the Latitudes, some of the Latitudes were great. Some of them were really good. So one thing I will say is, so I've got Libreboot here. Let's share the screen. So as you can see, Libreboot. And the interesting thing is I'm running an old version of Libreboot because there's no microcode in it. So again, this is completely free software, even down to the microcode. Now, I know it's got its controversy with the microcode, but there's also an issue with modern Libreboot and X60s where you've actually got to open it up and flash it. Mine's the one where you didn't have to open it up and flash it. Look up the documentation. I don't really know what to say about that. That's just what the Libreboot project says about it. Again, I don't think they're necessarily interested in these old ThinkPads anymore. Even on their website where they're selling them, they don't really sell anything but for the their latest ThinkPads, which are like sort of heavy work machines. So I don't know. And I'm running Hyperbola, of course. So let's share the screen. So yeah, I'm running Hyperbola. Now I'm going to say some of the things I'm using different. I'm using FCY instead of FCF, and that's because Hyperbola don't have FCF, so the fuzzy finder. Okay, they use FCY, and this is because their sort of attitude is lighter packaging. They've made these very arbitrary principles. And we're also using FS Archiver. Okay, and I think I'm going to cover these in a separate video because there's not really time here. So I'm having to make compromises, but I'm not willing to compromise on using free software. So this is how it is now. I'm not able to do as much in a TTY as I used to, but interesting, I'm not using X11, I'm using Xenokara, which is like BSD. So there we go, running Hyperbola. You can see that. So if I do, was it uname -r, isn't it? There you go. It's running the LTS kernel. So interesting. If you're running a 32-bit machine like this, you're going to want to, if you're running free software, there's really no alternative but to use Hyperbola, because you're going to run the only other sort of free software 32-bit that I can think of, maybe GUIX is one, or GUIX, or whatever it's called. But using Parabola, is a no-go, just because the keys, the PGP keys or whatever, haven't been signed off in whatever time, because when I tried to install it, basically the keys were out of date, the maintainer's keys were out of date. Now, interestingly, Hyperbola maintain geeks, that's it, yeah. Hyperbola is a 32-bit and a 64-bit first-class distribution, meaning that they run it. They run both sides of it as first class. They don't compromise on 32-bit, as in all the packages are maintained for 32-bit as well, and that's in their documentation. Maybe I'll go into Hyperbola a bit more another time, but you know, again, I don't want this to go on too long. So if you want to look up Hyperbola, see what you think. Yeah, so here's the thing. This is, thank you, Prosperous Potato, sorry. This is sort of what I want to get the crux of. So Hyperbola is like your Debian, okay? So it's your slower running distribution to Parabola. So Parabola is Arch, so is technically kind of Hyperbola. They want to move to BSD. That's going to take a long time. There's only so many developers on it, and they've got to do the licensing. So this is a interesting hybrid project. In the meantime, it's running Pacman Arch Linux packaging system with modified Debian packages. So look up the documentation. Again, I'll probably cover Hyperbola properly in the future, but it's like a hybrid distribution of sorts. It's a strange one, but they maintain it as first class. There's a limited number of packages, but they seem to be all working, well maintained. You'll never hear anybody talk about it, it seems, but there we go. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And yes, the licensing is all free software, like the Free Software Foundation. So I'm just going to leave it there. I just want to give you a bit of a taster. So I'm going to try and do these streams more regularly. That means they're going to be a bit shorter, a bit punchier, and maybe, you know, I'll come back to things. Think of questions you want to ask me in future streams, but there you go. Ahmed Nasser. One little thing, yeah, I'm just going to quickly say about the web. I'm glad you watched the whole stream about that. Yes, I would prefer the web more like Tim Berners-Lee. I don't think I did a great stream on the web, but I need to cover some more of that history to give a better perspective. I don't think I did a good job, and I gave the impression I hate the web, and it's not strictly true. It's just that even the people who made it intended it to be something somewhat different. Anyway, that's sort of what I was getting at. Anyway, that's for another video, I think. Yeah, it's a strange one. It's so much inextricably linked. You've got to sort of untangle it all. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I know I'm not taking too many questions here, but I thought I'd just cover the Librebooted ThinkPad running Hyperbola 32-bit. Unironically, that's what I use as my main machine now. I've still got my X201 testing, which is what I'm streaming on now, and I've still got my other X201, which used to be my main machine. But anyway, see you later, guys. Thanks for dropping by. Hope I gave you a little taster of what I'm doing, and I'm hoping to be on more regularly, maybe tomorrow. So come back with some questions and whatever. I'm just going to try and keep these punchier and more regular, and we can cover other things, you know, I don't know. Anyway, cheers. See you later.